Screenwriter?
No, I wanted to write fiction. I was always a fiction writer, and that's what it was. My love. My father and mother met in the mailroom at Simon & Schuster. My mother was an Italian girl from Brooklyn, and my father, a Russian immigrant son from Manhattan, and they met at Simon & Schuster. And I'm actually making a documentary about that fascinating world of these. I would also make documentaries because I find they blow my mind when they're done. They open up worlds within worlds. You go all the way back to Charles Dickens trying to collect his royalties in America. When Charles Dickens came to the United States, he was on a train. His first experience, he was on a train. He thought it was snowing or raining, but it was because so many people were spitting out the windows. Spitting was so popular with the spittoons in probably the America that you're doing in your movie. That's how disgusting. And when you would step on a carpet, it would be saturated with the spit, from the tobacco spit. And there was no copyright. He couldn't collect his royalties. Anyway, so I'm doing that documentary. I've already started that, which is very fascinating to me to do that.
The documentary's about
the history of the world of publishing and the magic of that world and what happened to it. I always wanted to be a writer. My dad was on the sales side. He was a salesman with a sales case. And and he would call on all the bookstores, and he knew every great bookstore in America, and he'd go walk into those bookstores. And so books were terribly enchanting to me. They were magical. They supported our household, and I wanted to write one. So I relate to that. And I wanted to cross over to the other side, from the sales side. I wanted to be with the editors and the bookmakers. I wanted to be on that side. So to me, to make film is a big step out of my, to go do that.
Did Making Joy make you feel more like moving onto writing, or more like returning to filmmaking?
It's always both for me. I love writing. I always write scripts. They become around 175 pages now. They are more novelistic. They have many worlds in them. I think many good movies have many movies within them that I find as I get older.
That's what I meant about it's not for sure. You still have to decipher it. You still have to break the code when you have these novels that are not scripts.
Yes. And a novel allows you to go into, Jennifer's mother is into soap operas. So we shot a soap opera from the 60s to the 2000s with Susan Lucci and Morris Bernard, who's like the Brando of soap operas. And those guys are like professional athletes. You say they do 100 scenes a day. So they're my kind of actors. Like I'd go Donna Mills, Susan Lucci, let's have a cat fight. They don't go, wait, what's my motivation? They just go bang, because they've done 100 cat fights. I was like blown away by the power of these women actors. So
that might be one of the most interesting things said at the table. The power of soap opera actors. That actually is a nugget. I buy it 100%.
But they blew me away, and they're tireless. Susan Lucci rehearsed a fight scene for 9 hours. This is how they do it. And she got one take to shoot it. That's how they do soaps. So there's a world within the world. This woman of Jennifer that's playing in Joy is made up of a metal garage that De Niro runs. That's for real. Half the movie's based on reality. That's a truck and bus metal garage. You say the helicopter's in the air in Apocalypse Now? This had big sides of trucks and buses smashing down with sparks and welding. I'm like, well, we gotta have that. That's the world. Too bad for the sound. Too bad for the actors. And she has a little girl with her, and it's like, kabam! And the kids like jump.
Did you write the part for her? Because you've worked with her, what, is it 3 times now?
This is the 3rd time. We have to agree and be excited about it mutually, and it has to be something we've never done before.
You said to me that David Selznick, the son of immigrants, married Jennifer Jones, an all-American girl from Oklahoma, because in America, all races and all classes can meet and make whatever opportunities they can, and that is what you feel when you reach into people's homes with what you sell. You said that.
This was ambitious for us because Jennifer really goes from 10 years old, she's played by another actress, to 45 years old. That's a lifespan thing for me. And you have many generations of women. You have Diane Ladd, you have Isabella Rossellini, 2 great actresses I always wanted to work with, amazing people who have a history, personally, of working with De Niro. So with Jennifer, we first talk about, how is this different? Why would this be something we've never done before, an ambition we've never done before? Well, she never played a 45-year-old woman. She never played someone at 27 who married a Latin singer who had it fall apart. I never saw the best divorced couple in America. What is that? Anna Karenina is a soap opera. Is soap opera trash? No, Anna Karenina is a soap opera. But when she loses the guy, she throws herself on the train tracks. Not Joy, the real Joy or this Joy. She keeps going, and the guy becomes her best friend. I haven't seen that movie, and he works for her to this day.
Alejandro, what were your conversations with
cool thing
Leonardo DiCaprio before you made Revenant? Because this was going to be a very tough shoot. He was going to be wrapped in a bearskin, apparently not a real bearskin.
Before Birdman, we started talking, and we were planning to start, the film start in the autumn, the story, and then go to the winter, and then end in the deep winter. So I didn't have a chance to start only in September, let's say, August, September. The shooting has to start there. I didn't have any flexibility. And by that time, he got greenlit with the Scorsese film, Wolf of Wall Street. So he said, can I do this film and we can start in December? And I said, I can't. So, I mean, because we will be shooting in the snow, and we have to have, I cannot be shooting the middle of the end part of it without knowing what happened to you in the beginning. So, I mean, it was impossible. So we let it there. Then I went into co-writing Birdman and doing Birdman, which was a completely different, 29 days, completely controlled budget, all, the very comfortable in that sense kind of thing.
In a theater.
In a theater, you know what I mean, with all these characters. And it was easy, it was very, it was challenging as every film, but in a way, we didn't have those things. When I came out, then New Regency, Arnold Milchan and Brad Weston called me and said, what about this one? I said, great, let me talk. So then Leo was interested again, we start talking. And as I was mixing Birdman, we start in pre-production this one. And Leo, in a way, I remember the first time that I saw Leo, which was in What's Eating Gilbert Grape, which I think is a fantastic movie, and the way he's portrayed a very, vulnerable and fragile. There's something in Leo that I haven't seen in a long time, and I said to Leo, I would love to see you as a fragile, vulnerable. To see the man that can be broken, not to have obviously the complexity of the strength, but at the same time to allow yourself to play that vulnerability and be hit by loss, by weather, and he was very excited about it. And he transformed himself physically. So in a way, he went into a diet. He let his hair grow like here, a beard that it was like almost like Santa Claus, like that. We were both eating our hair all day with fleas around and pasta soup from 2 months before, and every kind of thing. So physically, and now he's 4-year-old, and I think he's in an incredible, the most powerful state in his career. I think I was very privileged to work with him, because he's not only smart, but he really is, you have worked with him. He's not afraid of
Did he teach you
try
anything
everything, and he give everything.
Oh, yeah.
So
did he teach you anything about acting or actors?
He has done so many films. He has been 27 years making films.
Working a long time.
That he's a filmmaker.
Yeah.
What I like of Leo is that he is not just only an actor, but when he is with you, his comments come from a filmmaker point of view. He understands the film. And so it's not about ego, vanity, or me. No, so I appreciate that a lot. And in this film, differently from other films that he has done, he has almost no words, so few words. So all what he had to do was very difficult, which is to communicate and express or make you feel fear, anxiety, cold, sadness, rage. So, I mean, all those things that are easier to convey with words than with body language and the eyes. And all what he did was eyes movement and the pace, the rhythm. You can ask an actor what you want, but the tempo that has, the pace of it, even if you block 100 times, the blocking, but there's some internal rhythm in the actors that you cannot ask them that. There's a limit. And Leo has this internal rhythm that is just like a machine, like something that is blending things. And I was very impressed by that.
My son. The proper thing to do would be to finish him off quick.
He's to be cared for as long as necessary.
I understand.
Get away! Help!
Who's taught you the most? Has anybody given you a piece of advice that you follow as you make films?
I remember Helen Mirren, learning something from Helen Mirren. I was directing Prime Suspect for TV, and it was like one of the first days of the shoot, and I laid this like long track, and she came in first thing in the morning. I said, morning, Helen, and you're going to walk from here to here, and the camera's going to go like this, and there's these great perspectives opening up as the camera tracks. And she looked at me and said, well, why am I walking? I said, well, no, because it's great, because the camera's going to go like this, and you're going to. She goes, well, why am I walking? I said, well, because this, and then I sort of started to run out of steam, and she said, I think I'd be over there smoking out the window. And I kind of thought about it and realised that actually there was no particular reason why this character was walking, and this moment of a guilty cigarette, which is the character's meant to be giving up, was far better. So at that moment, I realised that the truly great actors have a kind of mise-en-scène in their head, or they arrive on set with even ideas about where to stage it, about their character. And as Alejandra said, it's like if you're open to it, the really great actors have a director's mind as well as an actor's mind, and from that moment on, I've always never imposed the way I'm going to shoot on an actor when they walk on set. I mean, I have my plan, but I always.
What were the conversations with Eddie Redmayne when you did Danish Girl?
We started prepping that about a year out, so he prepared full time for a year for that role, which is extraordinary. He did a lot of outreach into members of the transgender community and met trans women and men, and was very inspired by their stories. But a lot of the work, I mean, we screen tested. I mean, back to Ridley's point about preparation, our first screen test was 7 months out. We did another, screen test 3 months out. We had 3 weeks of rehearsal. But a lot of it was this idea that if you are a woman and your male self is a mask, how do we make it feel that it's not a film about a character transforming, it's a film about a character revealing, so that you feel that Eddie's character, Lily, has a latent femininity that's been revealed through the film, rather than that a man is becoming a woman. So it involved Eddie sort of getting so into what his suppressed femininity might feel like that playing a man would feel like a kind of suit of armor he was putting on to suppress his true femininity, and then that could slowly, through the course of the movie, be broke down, and we'd see the real self. And then we worked a lot about this idea of hyperfeminization, that if you're a woman who's been living as a man for many years, to become a woman, you might overreach, you might sort of overdo your femininity in order to reawaken those muscles or those parts of you that have been long dormant.
Lily, we should go out tonight. Give them something different. Lily, you're exquisite.
You're different from most girls. I feel I'd need to ask your permission before I kissed you.
Exactly what happened last night?
There was a moment when I wasn't me.
Danny, when you worked with Fassbender, he'd never met Steve Jobs, nor had you.
No.
How did you?
Well, he was amazing because he had this enormous, it was like 200 pages of dialogue, most of which was his. And so he had to memorize that and then get through that stage of memorizing. So he didn't sound like Aaron Sorkin. So he sounded like Steve Jobs, or our version of Steve Jobs. And he was extraordinary. There were 2 things that he did. One was which, and I don't know whether you guys do this. One was which he said to me, because we did a lot of rehearsal before we started shooting, and then we, you turn up in the morning and do a little bit of blocking and stuff like that, and then they go off and get ready. Then we come back. And he said to me, will you always shoot the rehearsal? Always shoot it. And we did. And I would always do that now, forevermore. And the crew were like, especially the focus puller, of course it wants to practice for professional reasons, just wants to practice. No. And it was incredible because it lifts everybody. They're on guard like that. And I mean, that was extraordinary. And I'd always do that now.
I had 3 different accountants try to explain it to me. The whole place has to be streamlined.
Start with 2 of the accountants.
I started with the
Joel,
Apple...
Can you come off stage? We're going to go
Leave him
backstage
right
for a
there.
moment.
I started with the Apple II team because we don't, make that anymore.
Just acknowledge the top guys.
Have a mimosa and relax.
You will not blow me off right now, Steve. The top guys...
There are no top guys. All right? On the Apple II team, there are no top guys. They're B players, and B players discourage the A players.
And the other thing he taught me was that, because the big thing in it is Steve Jobs is fighting IBM at the beginning. And he said, do you know where the word HAL from 2001 comes, the great computer in 2001? We begin with Arthur C. Clarke. And it comes from IBM, of course. Did you know this? IBM, HAL, they are the letters before IBM. Yeah. And that's where he got it from. That's where Arthur C. Clarke got it from. Yeah. Which I was just like, why didn't I know that? It was like,
wait a minute,
I didn't know about his footing, about your footing.
Oh, I see each letter.
Okay, yeah, I see it.
I before H, and B before
That's
A before
incredible.
It's amazing, isn't it? Yeah. Arthur C. Clarke.
Probably one of the things that me and Ridley have in common is we both made our first movies with Harvey Keitel.
Mm-hmm. Right, the duelists.
Yeah,
Right.
And Harvey was, really took me under his wing on Reservoir Dogs. And one of the things that he taught me in auditions, and I've kept it to this day, is actors would come in and he would just say, Quentin, don't help them out in that very first reading. Don't give them any guidance. Don't tell them how you want the scene. Don't tell them what you're looking for. They've had the material themselves, and they've come up with their own thing. You will never, ever see what there was in their head the very first time unless you let them do it. An adjustment is the easiest thing in the world to give. And you're the director. They'll do whatever you say, but let them do their first shot at it, what they came up with. And I've held on to that for 21 years, I guess.
It's true. I never rehearse, ever. I know what I'm going to do. I block it. They come in. I learned over the years, you can do one or two things. You can start off by saying, what should we do? And you're still talking at 1 o'clock and you haven't turned over yet. Or I know exactly what I'm going to do. And I walk in, because I storyboard everything from scratch right through. And so I've shot it on paper before I get there. Actors will say, but you're leaving no room for me. And I've done every which way. I've had two very good actors saying, how about we have a go this way? I say, fine, ready? Action.
And the time it takes to talk
all they
about
end up
it,
doing is talking, standing, facing each other in the middle of the bloody room. And there's a pause, they cut, long pause, then turned to me and said, that was really boring, wasn't it? I said, that's terrible, really boring, dude. And so you got to have the plan. If you got the plan, I tend to go, right, I got an idea. And they usually go, because I try and turn it into a big team effort. And when I'm talking to an actor, actress about, will we work together or not, I talk about everything but the bloody screenplay, because I want to just know who you are. I don't, and Harvey's absolutely right, don't tell them what you want. I want to see how you tick, dude.
But so you have changed as a director, because I think when you began, you didn't have that ease with actors.
Terrible.
Or with crews.
Do you want a quick anecdote?
Yeah.
Okay, quick anecdote. Zed Cars into Softly Softly. Somehow that I was
British television shows.
16 years they were. And there was one guy in there who looked like Broderick Crawford, his name was Stratford Jones. I can say he was scary, absolutely scary. And I somehow got in early on as a director from being in art department BBC to, they gave me a shot. David Rose, God bless him, said, I'm going to give you the second show in on Softly Softly, dude. This is live, with 13 million people sitting there watching. So you got a full day rehearsal. Then you're on that night and somebody on the set is going, and all the actors stand there looking terrified, okay? The week prior to that, you've got a week's rehearsal in some terrible church hall with sets laid out on the ground with tape and tables and a cup, and PAs running around with stopwatches saying, cue darling, cue darling. Stratford's moving from 16 years playing this guy Barlow to Softly Softly, still Barlow. So I'm sitting there one day and I think it's time for a character change. So I walked in and I'm meeting Stratford Jones for the first time, sat down, cup of tea, cigarettes, how you doing? I'm doing fine, scary then. I said, in short, I said, isn't it time for us to consider a change of identity and character for you? David Rose arrived within about 8 minutes and I was that far from getting fired on the spot. And because I thought I was being enthusiastic and say, let's change your character. The last thing you want to do is change his character. So that was one of the first big lessons.
Do you have any regrets?
About what?
Professionally?
Nothing.
Way you've behaved, choices you've made?
No choice. No, I kind of like what I've done, actually. And you have to. You've got to know what you put out. I've got no regrets. You may be able to tell me. I should have regretted.
So I did this little kids film, family film. I'm very, very proud of it, called Millions. And it's a beautiful little film about a boy and his mum. And there was a music at the end of it, and I'm a big Clash fan, and I all worked out it was going to have this Hitsville UK, it's called, one of the great Clash songs. It was going to be at the end of the movie, and I was persuaded out of it by one of these music supervisor people, who pick tracks. He persuaded me out of it to use something else. And like when you said it, that's the only thing I could think about.
What about you, Alejandro?
Regrets of like guilt feelings? Or,
guilt or something you didn't do you wish you had done or anything? Yes, Catholicism, sure.
I'm from a Catholic background, so yeah, guilt is a big part of it. Absolutely. Well, I think that sometimes I will have loved to make decisions earlier than later, meaning that sometimes I have learned that when something is not working in a set, it will get worse. And sometimes I delay those decisions, sometimes because I want to be hopeful or I want to give a chance or I'm hiding myself, attending other priorities. And when I let those things go, then it back bad. So, it came worst. And I sometimes delay those decisions. And it has to do with not changing something that you are thinking or even somebody that is not working, that you are afraid to be polite, all those things. And sometimes that I will have loved to be a little bit more practical in that sense. I'm a little bit romantic, and then that can backfire me badly. So,
what about you, David?
I would say the same thing. I tend to be hopeful and positive about everybody and everything, and that's made me naive sometimes, and that's put me in situations that I later look back on and go, oh, no, you had a voice inside your head and you saw what was going to happen. You knew.
In particular examples?
And you knew, picking certain crew people you knew were not going to be in tune with you, and it turned out to be an unpleasant experience. Not being able to cut right to the chase with an actor emotionally, which I think my skills got better at that. Feeling it right away and saying, let's talk about this. Let's bond about this. Let's go through this in a good way.
Tom, how about you?
I feel a lot of my life I'm fighting the possibility of regret, in the sense that whenever you make a choice to make a movie, it's 2 years of your life, and it's a huge investment, and you're not guaranteed that it'll find an audience or it'll go the way you want it to go. And I suppose I'm always afraid that I'm going to not do something and realize that was the film to do, or say no to a script and realize eventually that was the right thing to do. And I don't think it's yet happened to me, but I feel like it's just a matter of time. I will turn down something where I later realize that was my choice. But
Quentin, how about you?
I don't think I have any regrets artistically as far as the finished product is concerned and how I dealt with the artistic elements of it. I mean, the only thing that I actually really regret about my behavior when I'm making movies is just, especially when the film it's a long shoot, when it's gone on for like a long time. Every once in a while you just get tired, you get down. You just get sick of it. You just get sick of it. You've had it. You've just effing had it. And that day I feel sorry for myself. And I'm a grumpy a-hole. And everyone, Quentin's in a bad mood and to stay away from him and everything. And I really regret that. And what usually snaps me out of it is like, poor you. You are living your dream, and it's so difficult. Let's everybody fucking cry for Quentin. And it usually snaps me out of it. I mean, the biggest example of that was at some point after making Kill Bill for almost a year, I was in one of those moods, and in it, Zoe Bell, who I've now used as an actress, and she's even in Hateful Eight, she was Uma Thurman's stunt double. And I had kind of taught her how to be an actress and not just a stunt double. I wanted her, even if she's wearing the motorcycle outfit and a helmet on her head and everything, I want her to think the thoughts of the character. I want her to know what's going on. At first, she kind of laughed at that, then she took to it, almost like a duck to water. So I'm having one of those nights where we're shooting a night shoot and I'm just all like pissy about everything and I'm sick of this. And then all of a sudden I hear this call as Zoe needs to talk to you. Zoe's sitting there in this yellow jumpsuit, motorcycle outfit. She's on a motorcycle. She's got the helmet on her head. I'm like, yeah, what do you want? And she goes, Quentin, I just want to know, what do you want me to think about? We're getting ready to shoot the scene and I'm at the stoplight and I'm seeing Sophie Fatale. What do you want me to think about? And my heart just cracked open and I felt so happy. I'm almost getting teary-eyed thinking about it right now. It's like, oh my God, I've taught her to be an actress. I've taught her to think like an actress. And it just brought me back. It just brought me right back. And it's one of these emotional moments that I've always remembered in my career.
Before we wrap up, just a couple more questions. Is there a dream project you'd love to make that you've never had the chance to?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, but then hopefully you're going to do that in
Which
the
one is
future.
it?
The future, I don't want to say, but there's big things I've been working on and writing.
It's a good idea.
Somebody will stop you.
I'm gonna go make it. I'm gonna go make it. I'm gonna make it. But I mean, there's always, there's things that it's good to have dreams that you want to do. What I don't like, what I don't like is when you don't. I like having that dream that I want to do that is maybe unattainable. And in some sense, I think everybody at this table has something in our minds that we write or think that is unattainable. It's magic. And if we capture as much of it as we can, we're fortunate. But I like having an unattainable thing that's exciting to me. Yeah.
One very last question. I don't know if you all saw that Japanese film Afterlife.
No.
The idea of it is you go to the sort of way station between life and heaven or wherever, and you're allowed to take one memory with you. One memory of working on a film, one memory of a scene you've done. What would the memory be?
Wow.
Whoa.
Long pause.
Ask the easy questions.
The closest now for me was the way we shot The Revenant was like, contrary, completely different what Ridley was saying. We were rehearsing everything because we were shooting in very remote locations, and we did do, it was like 2 hours travel. All the, there was a huge action scene, an attack. So we were rehearsing for weeks, every bit, because it was this long shot. It was really unnerving, and everything from the focus puller to the movement of the camera to a guy looking to camera to, all the special effect that was dangerous that we have to figure out another, all those hundreds of decisions in a thing like that. And there was a moment that these guys are jumping into the boat.
It's hard to pick. I'm deciding between three moments right now. There was the day on Silver Linings Playbook where the sort of climax of the film where the braciole is being cooked and everybody's in the house, and it felt like I was living in that house with that family, with Bradley Cooper and Robert De Niro and Jennifer, and she comes in and takes over the movie, and with every actor there. That was a wonderful day. Two others are musical. An American Hustle, singing Delilah with Christian Bale and Jeremy Renner, and it just had such a wave of beauty about it, and Bradley and Amy dancing to Donna Summer's, it felt like a wave of cinema to me that just was like propulsive all the way through her screaming in the bathroom. And in Joy, there's singing in the snow. That's the magic moment.
Danny, what about you?
We shot a scene in 28 Days Later that we never used, where they were driving around in a taxi cab through post-apocalyptic, zombie-eyed Britain, and they sang Hotel Yoba, the White Stripes song. So it would be that. And we never used it in the movie, but I'd remember that. I always wanted to do a musical, that's why.
Tom, your moment, this is for eternity.
In case you're missing the pressure, Tom.
Because I'm back here in America, there was a moment on shooting John Adams when the Continental Congress had to give the vote about whether to go to war with the British. And it was one of those strange moments where one felt the import of the moment for the country rather than you were shooting a bunch of actors putting their hands up. There was something there when I kind of forgot the theatre of it and felt very connected to that decision and its implications.
Ridley?
Was a terrible false start on a film called Gladiator. And we had no script, fundamentally, for the whole first act. And I was shooting the German front and the Roman army, where we built the trenches and all that stuff, about 5 miles east of Gatwick Airport.
Oh, wow.
And, you don't have to go to Everest to shoot Everest, So, and I had the whole German army standing on the left, all a bunch of Scottish. They were all Scottish barbarians. They weren't German, they were Scottish. And the Roman army on the right, and I go on the trail in the morning, and Russell and I look at each other. There's no dialogue. There's no dialogue. So I said, so what are you going to do? He said, what am I going to say when I walk out on those Bofors guns? I said, you could say, looks like snow. He said, what kind of line is that? I said, just say it looks like snow. What do you want, a soliloquy? This is where Russell and I started to really get to know each other. And, I said, before we do that, I want to walk down the middle of the valley, you and I, the army over here and Black Forest over there. And there's going to be a twig here where there's going to be a bird on this twig. this is what's a great actor also, bird on a twig, and you're going to ponder on that bird, and I'm going to start the film on that bird, then I'm going to go to you, then he's going to turn and look at the forest, and there's something very ominous about that black forest, and then we're going to start the movie, okay? He said, all right, that's how we began. And it was always that, we were both very nervous because there was nothing there. 45 minutes later, when he got to the Bofors gun, it started to snow.
Magic.
Wow.
So it was a good omen.
Quentin.
He just looked at me and went, did you do that? I said, yeah, of course.
One memory you'd like to take with you?
Well, I'm really glad you asked me to go last. All right, you know, I was, I don't know if I buy your concept of that's what I'm taking to heaven or way station or whatever, all right, but trying to remember one moment after over another as far as a feeling and putting myself there, i.e. the feeling, as opposed to a landmark or a good scene. I guess it would be either once we'd finished the twist contest in Pulp Fiction, or Uma dancing to "Girl, You'll Be a Woman Soon" by herself, and the connection that we had in doing that. You know, it was just this thing in my head, and you know, and that twist sequence in my head would have been there if John Travolta had done it or not. All right, I just ended up having a magnificent dancer who actually people wanted to see dance. You know, that was the part I didn't quite get. That was the benefit when I saw it with an audience. Oh my God, there literally is that moment when I watched it with audiences who hadn't seen it before the first time. When he kicks off his shoes, there literally was this murmur in the audience, oh my God, he's gonna dance.
I remember.
And so that was this iconic thing in my head, and then to capture it, and at one point, I operated the camera at some point. Now, I had to stop dancing when I was operating the camera. I found myself going like that. But that was a really lovely moment, and you know, and I was still very young in my career, so I had something in my head, and we'd put it on screen, and we captured it, and we had that whole, you know, Jackrabbit Slims around us, and we were there. It was very lovely.
Good, perfect. Well, I'd like to thank all of you for taking part in Close Up with the Hollywood Reporter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.